Hi, I'm Marcel, and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. I'm doing Criminology's Read What You Own challenge, where my husband has wrapped up 100 books, and I am reading them one at a time. And this time I have read Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, Volume 1, also known as Preludes and Nocturnes. And I was quite interested in reading this because, due to probably the Netflix series, the Sandman as a character has become much more popular. Despite the Sandman also always, in some parts, always having been quite popular. So this is one of these sort of staples of popular media that you know of, even if you haven't read it. Preludes and Nocturnes is the first volume of the series. And in this, it mainly focuses on the fact that Sandman, also known as Dreams, as a character, is kidnapped by a human cult and kept by this human cult for several decades before he manages to escape. And then he has to go and find some things that was stolen from him when he was enslaved by this human cults. And I did read reviews of this book and Sandman in general to sort of figure out some of my thoughts. And it was pointed out by someone who was a fan of the series that rereading this volume highlights how difficult it was to get into the series. This issue very much reads as a side quest Dungeons and Dragons story. where we sort of have three quests that he needs to fulfill. Finding item A, finding item B, finding item C, and the stories and the quests don't really build on one another. They don't really deal with one another. So I'm not really sure what I was supposed to sit or where I was supposed to be at the end of this issue. There is also a last chapter that was probably my favorite one, which is the chapter called "The Sound of Her Wings." This is the chapter that happens after everything, where Dreams meets his sister Death, and follows her around as she does her job of being Death. And that, I think, probably was the more poignant of the stories of the book. In addition to that, at least in this issue, Dream as a character, he's kind of flat. He doesn't really do anything. He doesn't change, and a lot of, for example, stories have this issue with want versus needs. So a character, especially the main character, wants something, but it turns out that what they actually do is they need something else, and that's how the main character grows. Now, that isn't necessarily the case for all main characters. If you are a fan of classical Disney films, I'm just using that because that's the only examples I can think of right now. You have the example of, for example, Belle in Beauty and the Beast, or Ariel in The Little Mermaid, who neither of them actually changes during the story. It's not about them changing. It's about how they change someone else. So Belle changes the beasts, and Ariel changes her father. And the story is actually more about the journey that the beast and Triton goes through than Belle and Ariel. So you do have some kind of stories like that, but because of the episodic examples of this, because you don't really have any side characters that follow Dream, no one is really changed by what's happening. But at the same time, I don't think that was the point, in a sense. I think this is more a philosophical book. It plays, rather than being interested in the plot or the characters, it's more about throwing out ideas to you as a reader. Dream, as presented in this book, plays on sort of dream as in I dream that this will happen in the future, dream as in what I dream at night, nightmares, hope. There's a lot of things sort of meshed together in the way that it is used. And he throws out some poignant things to think about in regarding to, for example, he travels to hell at one point, and the demons want to, well, ask why should we allow you to leave? And Dream very poignantly points out that, well, what is the point of having people here in hell to torture if they do not have the hope or the dream of a form of heaven? So the idea of something better actually makes it possible to torture them. Without that hope, you don't really are able to torture them. In addition to that, it's hinted to, for example, with the use of the characters Cain and Abel. They're told that the Cain and Abel are the first storytellers. I'm not really sure why they picked Cain and Abel for that. But again, the whole idea of stories and as equivalent stories to lying. But what threw me off with this chapter, and I don't know if it changes in subsequent chapters, so please let me know that, is that while you're sort of talking about dreams, nightmares, daydreaming, hope, all of these, and playing on the puns of, well, what is a story? Is a dream a form of story? Is hope a form of story? And all of that are interesting things. Everything is kind of presented as very bleak in this book. There is sort of no, even dreams are turned into nightmares. You are caught in a dream where you're dreaming something fantastical, but due to things that are happening, you are caught in these dreams and therefore can't get out. So the way that they are talking about dreams in this volume is sort of putting that dreams and nightmares are very much the same thing. And if that is the case, why? What are you trying to then tell us? Or not necessarily tell us, but ask us to reflect on? Are you sort of saying that you shouldn't have hope for the future because everything is a form of nightmare? Which is what I sort of almost was, so that's what I ended up sitting with. Okay, do not have hope because a hope is a dream and dream is a nightmare, and therefore hope is nightmare. Hope is only positive because that means the demons can torture you. I know that this, again, it's just the first chapter, so please let me know if that changes or if that's just the theme that they are going through, and that's what we're going to do throughout the series. Because right now, I don't really understand why this became so popular as it is. I'm not saying it's bad. And again, everyone talks about Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, but the artwork is also quite amazing here. I'm going to try and see if I can do the last chapter. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. So let me know if things are going to change in the subsequent volumes and that I should pick them up, or if this is just what Sandman is, which is fine. And that's Sandman, and now I'm going to pick out the next book I am going to read so I can stop just buying books and actually read some of the books I own. But of course, book 58. But of course, a lot of these books weren't bought by me. I am married, as you probably guessed by the fact I was referring to my husband, and I am an avid reader. My husband is an avid reader, and our first fight as a couple was when we were trying to merge our sort of large book collections together, because we now have one large book collection. But I'm going to find book 58, so give me a moment. It is... this is Michael Polanyi, I think. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that Y-I sound in English. This is... I do not know of this name, but I do understand the topic. So, translated into English, this is Michael Polanyi, and the title of the book is The Silent Dimension. And this is a theory book. In English, it's called the tacit dimension, the tacit dimension, tacit or tacit dimension. And what this book is about is all of the information and all of the knowledge that we have that we can't really put into words. So if you're going to drive a car, for example, you know how to drive a car. You don't really put that into words because it's a form of tacit information. Your body knows how to drive. You can see this with, for example, people who can put their signature without really thinking, or if they've had some brain damage, because they've done it so many times that their body just does it automatically. Or the best example I have of this is when you're going to put in your pen. Have you ever experienced what happens when they have turned the number plate around so that the 1 isn't where you usually have the 1? So, for example, I am used to the 1 starting in the upper left corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And if that is turned around and they start with 1 at the bottom, I have struggled so much with putting in my pen, because then I suddenly have to think about, well, what is my pen? And I know what my pen is. But because it goes so automatically through my fingers, I usually don't think about it. So I don't know about the book. I do know about the theme, and subscribe if you want to know my thoughts about the book on a later date. Thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.